When I finally told my mom I'd be taking the solo vacation I'd wanted for years, she responded, "That's great, we can all go together." So I did what nobody in my family ever believed I would. I finally stood up for myself, and their reaction made me do something I should have done a long time ago. I, 32M, grew up in what could now be referred to as the mild Midwest. Our family was the golden family of the neighborhood. We had a golden house, and we had a golden child. That golden child was my older brother Alex, now 39M. Our home was practically a shrine to his existence. The walls were covered with his trophies and certificates. In my parents' room, there was literally an American flag with his face in the middle of it. I myself didn't fully realize the extent of it until my 8th birthday, because in the midst of my parents busying themselves with Alex's science fair, they forgot my birthday. I still remember how it felt when they tried passing off his half-eaten baseball team celebration cake, complete with "Congrats Tigers" still written on it, as my birthday cake, and things only got worse from there. I made an honor society in middle school, but I wasn't even acknowledged, all because Alex just got accepted to the robotics team. I also won a regional photography contest in high school, but guess what? My parents couldn't attend the ceremony, because Alex needed to tour potential colleges that weekend. Our possessions told the same story of favoritism. Alex's room had the newest gadgets, trendy clothes, and everything he needed for his numerous extracurriculars, while mine had hand-me-downs and bargain bin items. When I wanted to learn guitar, I got stuck with Alex's old one that he abandoned after 3 months. When I complained it was too big for me, Mom just said, "We already spent so much on Alex's basketball equipment this season." This pattern continued through high school. I studied with borrowed library books while Alex got private tutoring for his ACTs. My parents bought him a car for college. When I needed transportation help, they suggested public transit. College was brutal. Alex graduated from a prestigious university with full parental support, but when my turn came, they could only cover half my tuition for my first semester at a state school. "We're still paying off Alex's student loans," they explained. "You'll need to figure out the rest." I worked 2 jobs while taking classes, often falling asleep over my textbooks. Meanwhile, Alex was starting his career at a job our parents helped him get through their connections. I remember one particularly painful moment during my sophomore year. I'd received a partial scholarship for academic excellence, and when I called home to share the news, my mother's first response was, "That's nice, but did you hear Alex just got promoted to junior manager?" The scholarship I'd worked so hard for was dismissed in seconds, as if it were nothing compared to Alex's career advancement that had come largely through our parents' networking. Then, Josephine, 38F, came into the picture. My parents took out another loan for their dream wedding, designer tux, fancy venue, 250-person guest list. I overheard them worried about the payments one night, but insisting nothing's too expensive for Alex's big day. When I mentioned how stressed I was juggling the best man duties while also working a full-time job, my mom said, "I thought by now you'd know that we really don't care." Then came the twins. Despite still paying off the wedding loan, my parents contributed to a down payment on a house near them. I watched them tap into retirement funds they claimed were untouchable when I needed college help. "This is different," they insisted. "This is for our grandchildren." Guess who became the default babysitter? Yep, me. What started as an occasional, "Jake, can you watch the boys for a few hours?" became a weekly obligation, then expanded to evenings whenever they had appointments. The twins are now 5 and energetic little tornadoes. I love them, but they're exhausting. Every weekend follows the same script. Alex unexpectedly drops them at my apartment with some excuse about needing me time or having important errands. The boys run wild, turning my place upside down. There was this one Sunday when he showed up with the twins in pajamas at my door at 7 a.m., claiming he and Josephine had an emergency breakfast with friends. This would have been fine, except I had an interview for a side hustle that day, which I desperately needed to pay off my student loans. When I reminded him about it, he just shrugged and said, "Family comes first, Jake," before hurrying off. I ended up missing the interview, and the position went to someone else, and after a few more months of babysitter abuse, I tried explaining how overwhelming it all is, to which Alex accused me of being jealous of his life and kids. "You're just bitter because you're still single," he shot back, as if my relationship status determines my desire to be abused. Last month, after a particularly exhausting weekend where the twins managed to spill juice all over my laptop, I decided to treat myself to a beach vacation. I found this small, modest resort in the Carolinas, perfect for a quiet getaway. When I mentioned it during our Sunday family dinner, Mom's eyes lit up. "Oh, that's perfect. We should all go together." Alex was already planning activities. In just seconds, my vacation became his childcare opportunity. Josephine was already on her phone looking up kid-friendly excursions, while Alex started telling the twins they'd get to spend a whole week with Uncle Jake at the beach. Not once did anyone ask if this was what I wanted. So that night, while lying in bed, I made a decision that would change everything. I booked a completely different resort on a small, secluded island. I told nobody about the change. Quietly, I arranged time off work, packed in secret, and made sure my emergency fund was accessible. I know it's dishonest, but I just couldn't take it anymore. They'll be at the airport, heading to different gates. They'll board their flight to the Carolinas while I fly to my own destination. I've turned off location sharing, and I'm prepared for the inevitable fallout. Yes, I know there will be drama. Yes, I know they'll be upset. But for the first time in my life, I'm putting myself first. For 32 years, I've been the reliable brother, the perfect son, the always available uncle. I've sacrificed my social life, my weekends, my own needs to meet my family's expectations. I've missed dating opportunities because I was always babysitting. I've turned down promotions that might interfere with family commitments. I've put my personal life on hold to be available whenever they need me. I'm not just escaping a vacation. I'm escaping a lifetime of being taken advantage of. I plan to use this as a turning point to establish clear boundaries with my family and possibly even take a complete break from them. I'm tired of always being the one who sacrifices, the family support pillar, the reliable fallback option. Reddit, am I overreacting? Should I just go along with with their plans and accept my place in the family, or is it okay for me to want something different for myself? Update 1. Thanks for all your support and advice. A lot has happened since my last post, and I want to share how it all played out. The airport day went according to plan, but was more emotionally intense than I expected. I arrived early and deliberately chose a check-in counter far from where my family would be. Through the terminal's glass walls, I watched them arrive, Dad checking their booking information, Mom looking excited, Alex wrangling the twins, Josephine handling luggage. I quietly went through security for my own flight as they headed to their check-in counter. As soon as they realized I wasn't at their gate, my phone started blowing up. First came confused texts. Where are you? We're at gate C24. Then worried ones. Jake, are you okay? Did something happen? Finally, angry ones. How could you do this to us? The boys are crying. I turned off my phone before boarding my plane. For the first time in years, I felt a strange mixture of freedom and guilt. I'd lived with that guilt most of my life, but the freedom, that was new, and it was exhilarating. My resort was nothing like the crowded tourist destination they were heading to. The moment I stepped onto the beach, years of tension melted away. No twins to watch, no family drama to manage, no schedule to follow, just me, the ocean, and complete freedom. The first couple days were actually challenging. I kept checking the time thinking the twins would be having lunch now, or this is when Alex usually needs help with bedtime. Breaking decades of conditioning isn't easy. I caught myself reflexively reaching for my phone whenever I heard a child cry on the beach, my body instinctively responding as if I needed to rush and help. At restaurants, I automatically scanned menus for kid-friendly options before remembering I was only ordering for myself. Years of putting everyone else's needs before mine had become so deeply ingrained that even in their absence, I was still mentally catering to them. But something shifted on the third day. I tried things I'd always wanted to do but never had time for. I took a ridiculous but fun surfing lesson and loved every minute. I joined a beachside yoga class where I met a group of solo travelers. I even had an impromptu dinner date with an interesting guy I met at the resort's bar one evening. It was just a casual meal, but it reminded me I could have a life outside my family. The real test came when I turned my phone back on after 5 days. There were 58 voicemails, over 200 text messages, and 83 missed calls. My mother had even called my workplace claiming a family emergency. Thankfully, I'd already informed my boss I was taking a holiday. I listened to some of the voicemails. My mother's tone evolved from concern to anger to manipulation. Jake, how could you abandon your family like this? The twins are devastated. Is this how we raised you? Alex's messages were worse. You've ruined everything. The boys keep asking for Uncle Jake. Josephine had to cut her spa appointment short because I couldn't handle meetings alone. But one message struck a different chord. It came from my dad, and he sounded uncertain for once. Jake, please just let us know you're safe, even if I don't understand what's happening. I'd never heard him speak to me without immediately defending Alex or pushing me to do more. I sent one text to our family group chat. I'm safe and enjoying my vacation. I'll contact you when I return. Please respect my space. Then I muted the conversation and went back to focusing on myself. The next 5 days were transformative. I read 3 books instead of reading bedtime stories to the twins. I had uninterrupted conversations with other guests. I watched the sunset every evening instead of rushing home to help with baths and bedtime. I even started journaling to process years of pent-up emotions. One afternoon, I found myself sitting alone on the beach, watching the waves roll in. A sense of peace washed over me that I hadn't felt since childhood. I realized I'd spent so many years living according to other people's schedules and needs that I'd forgotten what it felt like to simply exist for myself. I wrote in my journal that evening, I've been so busy being someone for everyone else that I forgot to be someone for myself. Last night, I had dinner at a small beachfront restaurant. The older waitress, noticing I was alone, asked if I was happy with my solitude. After I gave her a condensed version of my situation, she said something that resonated. Family is important, honey, but not at the expense of your own well-being. Sometimes putting yourself first is the bravest thing you can do. When I returned home, I didn't go straight to my apartment. I'd booked a hotel room for 2 nights to give myself time to prepare for the inevitable confrontation. During this time, I updated my work emergency contacts, changed the locks on my doors, and most importantly, wrote down my boundaries. My family discovered I was back when I accidentally liked a coworker's social media post. Within hours, my mother and Alex were at my apartment building, repeatedly buzzing my intercom. I watched them from my hotel room window across the street, feeling strangely detached from their dramatic performance. I'm meeting them tomorrow at a neutral coffee shop, not my home. I know it won't be easy, but I've prepared what I want to say. My hands shake when I think about it, but I'm choosing myself for the first time in my life. Despite the anxiety, the guilt, and the drama that will surely follow, I know I'm doing the right thing. I'll update again after my conversation with my family. Thanks Reddit for giving me the courage to take this first step toward independence. Update 2. As planned, I met with my family at the coffee shop, and it was even more intense than I anticipated. Here's what happened. The coffee shop confrontation started civilly enough. I arrived early and sat at a corner table where I could see both the main entrance and emergency exit, a habit from years of anticipating family drama. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my coffee cup. My parents, Alex, and surprisingly Josephine, all arrived together. Thankfully, no twins. Before they could launch into their prepared speeches, I held up my hand and stated what I'd rehearsed. I'm establishing boundaries, and they're non-negotiable. The next 2 hours were a masterclass in emotional manipulation. Alex cried while describing how my absence had traumatized the twins. Mom tried shame and guilt. After everything we've done for you. Unexpectedly, Josephine attempted to mediate, suggesting a compromise where I'd only watch the kids every other weekend. Dad mostly sat uncomfortably silent. The turning point came when Alex said, "You're being selfish. Family means sacrifice." Something snapped inside me. Calmly but firmly, I replied, "Yes, family does mean sacrifice, but it's supposed to go both ways. When was the last time any of you sacrificed anything for me?" The silence that followed was deafening. For the first time ever, I laid it all out. The years of being second to Alex, the financial inequity, the constant assumption that my life and time weren't as valuable as theirs. I showed them my calendar from the past year, with every weekend marked for babysitting and every holiday tailored to their needs. I reminded them of specific incidents they'd conveniently forgotten. How they'd missed my college graduation ceremony because Alex had a minor cold. How they'd borrowed money I'd saved for a down payment to help Alex with an unexpected tax bill. How they'd invited themselves to my vacation without once considering what I wanted. Each example landed like a body blow, and I could see the dawning realization in their expressions as the pattern became undeniable. My mother tried to interrupt, but that's what uncles do. I said something I'd never dared say before. No, that's what paid babysitters do. And Alex, if you need this much help, maybe it's time to hire one. From there, the conversation shifted dramatically. Alex stormed out with my mother following. Josephine surprisingly stayed and acknowledged they'd taken advantage of my availability. After a long silence, my father said, "We never meant to make you feel this way." It wasn't an apology, but it was something. After they left, I executed my plan. I moved to a different part of the city, to a new apartment. It's smaller than my previous place, but it's in a secure building with a doorman who's been briefed on my situation. I have a new phone number that only my workplace and a few close friends have. The hardest part wasn't the move or the planning, it was rebuilding my life from scratch. I had few close friends and no real hobbies because I'd spent years being available for my family. I started small. I joined a cooking class, a local hiking group, and accepted dinner invitations from colleagues that I'd consistently declined before. My first truly free weekend felt strange. I did things that were previously unthinkable. Sleeping in, visiting a farmer's market, spending hours in a bookstore. No urgent texts from Alex. No guilt-tripping calls from mom. No last-minute babysitting requests. The first time I spent an entire Saturday doing absolutely nothing productive, just lounging in pajamas, watching movies, and ordering takeout, I actually felt guilty. I kept expecting someone to call with an emergency or show up at my door needing help. When evening came and I was still alone, I realized I couldn't remember the last time I'd had an entire day to myself without interruption. That night, I cried, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming realization of how much of my life I'd given away. My family's reaction to my move was harsh, but predictable. They discovered my new job doesn't allow personal calls during business hours when mom tried reaching me through the company switchboard. Alex even showed up at my office once, but security had been forewarned. He sent a tearful email accusing me of destroying our family. The unexpected development came from Josephine. She emailed an apology for her part in enabling the situation. Initially, Alex resisted taking the twins to events on weekends, but he's slowly adjusting to it. It's a small but significant change. My parents are struggling to adapt. Dad occasionally texts, usually awkward attempts at casual conversation. Mom fluctuates between angry outbursts and icy silence. She left a voicemail last week saying, "When you're done with this rebellion, we'll welcome you back." She doesn't get it. This isn't a phase. This is my new reality. Work has improved dramatically without constant family interruptions. I'm more focused and productive. My boss noticed the change and assigned me to lead a major new project. I'm also dating casually for the first time in years, though I'm taking it slow. The biggest shift has been internal. The constant background anxiety I lived with for years is gone. I've started exercising, eating better, and sleeping well. My therapist, yes, I finally started therapy, says I'm recovering from what she calls chronic family stress syndrome. Last weekend, the twins sent me a package containing handmade cards saying they miss me. It was bittersweet, but I stayed firm. I carefully wrote back telling them I love them, but need some time to take care of myself. I wrote it knowing Alex might not read it to them. Yesterday, I ran into an old friend who remarked, "There's a lightness about you now. You look years younger." She's right. Despite the angry texts, the attempts at emotional manipulation, and the occasional guilt that still surfaces, I feel lighter, more free. Real family love shouldn't feel like a prison sentence. I'm discovering that respect for personal space, acknowledgement of individual needs, and mutual support rather than one-sided sacrifice are all components of genuine love. Next week marks 1 month in my new apartment. For the first time ever, I'm throwing a small housewarming party. Just a few friends from cooking class, hiking group, and work. No expectations, no drama, no family, just people who accept me for who I am.